Padre Pio revealed a secret the Vatican has kept hidden for decades, a secret so powerful that souls in purgatory can communicate with you while you sleep. But be warned, what I'm about to tell you in the next few minutes could change the way you sleep forever. There is a method that Padre Pio only taught to certain people, a method that allows the souls of your departed loved ones to speak to you in dreams, not ordinary dreams, but real messages, true communications from the invisible world. And this method is surprisingly simple. It involves the Rosary, but not in the way you think. Listen carefully to what follows, because after what I am about to reveal, you will never again be able to ignore the nightly visits your soul receives during sleep. How many nights have you spent wondering if your deceased loved one is okay? How many times have you woken up with that strange feeling as if someone were there in your room, near your bed? That feeling that disappears as soon as you open your eyes. It's not your imagination. The souls in purgatory are in desperate need to communicate with us. They suffer, they wait, and above all, they seek a channel, an open door, to transmit essential messages to us. Padre Pio knew this better than anyone. He saw these souls. He spoke to them. He heard them moan in the night in San Giovanni Rotondo, and he discovered something extraordinary. The Rosary, when listened to during sleep, creates a unique spiritual frequency, a frequency that allows souls to penetrate your dreams, not to frighten you, but to speak to you. Maybe you've lost someone recently, a parent, a spouse, a child, and this pain gnaws at you. Day and night, you pray, but you feel like your prayers are lost in the void. You light candles, but the flame brings you no comfort. What if I told you that this person is trying to reach you every night, that their soul is knocking on the door of your consciousness while you sleep, but you have never opened it? What Padre Pio discovered is troubling. Most Catholics sleep in silence, or worse, with the television on, and this silence or this profane noise closes the door to the souls who seek to communicate. But the Rosary, murmured softly, during your sleep, acts like a beacon in the spiritual darkness. It attracts souls. It gives them permission to enter your dream space. Padre Pio documented hundreds of cases. People who, after following this method, woke up with precise messages, information they could not have known otherwise, revelations about the state of their deceased loved one's soul. But before I explain exactly how to do it, you must understand why the Vatican preferred to keep this quiet. The 1950s in San Giovanni Rotondo were an extraordinary time. Padre Pio, despite the restrictions of the Vatican, continued to confess thousands of people, and among these confessions, some were different. Women came to see him, their faces marked by tears, recounting inexplicable nocturnal experiences. They had dreamed of their deceased husbands, of their lost children, of their departed parents, and these dreams were not ordinary. In these dreams, the deceased spoke. They gave precise instructions. They revealed secrets that no one knew. One woman, Emily Carter from New York, came to see Padre Pio in March of 1954. She was trembling. Her husband, Joseph, had died 6 months earlier in a work accident. Since his death, she had not had a single dream of him, not a single sign. She had prayed, she had said masses, she had lit hundreds of candles, nothing. Then one night, she had left the Rosary playing on an old record player that her neighbor had lent her. She had fallen asleep with this prayer in the background, and he had come, her husband, Joseph. He had appeared in her dream with terrifying clarity. He was not smiling, his face was grave, and he had said words that she would never forget. When she told Padre Pio this, the Capuchin saint was not surprised. He nodded slowly, as if he already knew this truth. What Emily described, Padre Pio experienced every night. The souls in purgatory came to visit him in his cell. They sometimes manifested physically, leaving traces of their passage, inexplicable noises, knocks on the walls. But most often, they came during his rare moments of sleep, and they spoke. Padre Pio confided to several of his spiritual directors that the Rosary acted like a key that opened a door between the worlds. When this prayer resonates in a room while someone sleeps, it creates a sacred space, a space where ordinary laws no longer apply. The souls in purgatory, normally limited in their interactions with the living, find in this moment a unique opportunity. The sleeper, freed from their conscious defenses, becomes receptive to messages from beyond. But why did the Vatican never speak about this officially? The answer is complex. The Church has always been cautious regarding communications with the deceased. The line between legitimate devotion and spiritualism is thin, too thin, for some Roman prelates. In 1959, a confidential report was drawn up by the Holy Office concerning certain practices taught in San Giovanni Rotondo. This report specifically mentioned the method of the nocturnal rosary. The conclusions were nuanced. On one hand, nothing contrary to the faith. On the other, a recommendation of discretion. Do not encourage publicly. Do not prohibit either. This report remained in the archives, never published, never discussed openly. But Padre Pio continued to teach this method discreetly to those who came to see him, desperate, seeking a sign from their departed loved ones. And the testimonies accumulated. Michael Thompson, a doctor from Providence, Rhode Island, had lost his mother in January of 1956. A man of science, he was skeptical regarding visions and apparitions. But the pain of this loss gnawed at him. A fellow doctor, knowing that he was going to see Padre Pio, suggested that he ask for advice about his mother. Michael hesitated. What was he going to ask a priest that he could not ask himself? But before Padre Pio, the words came out without him controlling them. He asked if his mother was suffering, if she needed something. Padre Pio looked at him with his piercing eyes, those eyes that seemed to see beyond the visible. Your mother wants to speak to you, he said simply, but you close the door every night. Michael didn't understand. What door? He slept normally, like everyone else. The silence, Padre Pio explained. When you sleep in silence, then you close your soul to messages. Let the rosary murmur in your room and listen to what comes. Michael was doubtful, but he tried it. The first night, nothing. The second, confused dreams. But on the third night, his mother appeared. She didn't say many words, but she pointed to a place in the house, a drawer that Michael had never opened since her passing. And she smiled. The next day, Michael opened that drawer. He found a letter his mother had written him before she died, but she had never had the courage to give it to him. This letter contained revelations that changed his life. When he went back to thank Padre Pio, the saint said something strange. Souls know what we need, he said. They want to help us, but we must give them permission to enter. The nocturnal rosary is that permission. What Padre Pio described wasn't magic. It wasn't spiritualism. It was a form of profound prayer that opened spiritual channels, normally closed. The rosary, with its joyful, sorrowful, glorious, and luminous mysteries, traces a path through the history of salvation. When these mysteries resonate during our sleep, our soul journeys with them. And on this journey, it can encounter other souls. Souls in purgatory are particularly drawn to the Rosary. This prayer soothes them, it shortens their suffering, and when it resonates near a sleeper, these souls gather. But not all souls come in the same way. Padre Pio distinguished 3 types of nocturnal visits. The first, the rarest, is the visit of consolation. The soul appears in peace, luminous, to reassure the living about their state. These visits happen when the soul is close to its final release, almost at the threshold of paradise. The second is the visit of request. The soul comes to beg for additional prayers. It sometimes shows its suffering, not to frighten, but to motivate the living, to intensify their suffrages. The third, the most troubling, is the visit of revelation. The soul comes to transmit crucial information, something the living needs to know, something that can change the course of their earthly life. Emily Carter, whom I mentioned earlier, received a visit of revelation. Her husband, Joseph, in that memorable dream, didn't come to be consoled. He didn't ask for prayers. He came with a warning. He pointed to their eldest son, Anthony, and he spoke terrifying words. Keep him away from his friends before the end of the summer. Emily woke up in a sweat. She didn't understand. Anthony had good friends, young men from the town that she had known since they were children. She hesitated for weeks. Should she take this dream seriously? Should she intervene in the social life of her 17-year-old son? In August of that year, 3 of Anthony's friends were arrested for armed robbery. One of them shot a security guard. They were all sentenced to long prison terms. If Anthony had stayed, would he have been with them that night? Emily never doubted it. Her husband, from purgatory, had seen what was going to happen, and thanks to the nocturnal rosary, he had been able to warn her. Padre Pio, when he learned this story, showed no surprise. Souls see further than we do, he said. Time works differently in the afterlife. What is future for us is already known to them. But beware. This ability to communicate does not come without responsibility. Padre Pio warned that not all dreams during the Rosary are authentic messages. The devil, too, can take advantage of these moments of spiritual openness to sow confusion. How to distinguish a real message from a diabolical illusion? Padre Pio gave 3 criteria. First, peace. A real message from the soul of a deceased person leaves a profound peace upon waking, even if the content is difficult, even if it's a warning, the peace remains. Second, consistency with the faith. A real message never contradicts the teachings of the Church. If the apparent soul says something against Catholic doctrine, it's not the soul, but the devil in disguise. Third, the fruits. A real message bears good fruits. It leads to prayer, to conversion, to good works. It doesn't create unhealthy obsession or dependence on signs. These criteria are essential, because what comes in the night isn't always what it seems to be. Padre Pio himself suffered terrible attacks during his sleep. The devil sometimes came disguised as a soul in purgatory, trying to deceive him. How did he recognize him? The devil, even disguised, can't bear certain things. As soon as Padre Pio invoked the name of Mary or that of Jesus, the false apparition decomposed, revealing its hideous nature. That's why the protection of the Rosary is so important. Not only does this prayer open the door to benevolent souls, but it closes the door to evil entities. The devil hates the Rosary. Padre Pio repeated it constantly. Every Hail Mary is like a whip on Satan's back. When the Rosary plays in your room while you sleep, you are enveloped in a spiritual shield. Souls in purgatory can pass through this shield because they belong to God. They are on the path to purification. They are not enemies of our salvation. But the devil cannot cross this sonic barrier of prayer. He must remain outside, helpless, while legitimate communications take place. That's one of the reasons why this method is so safe. It combines the necessary openness to receive messages with the indispensable protection against evil intrusions. But let's return to the testimonies that marked San Giovanni Rotondo. One particularly troubling story is that of Joanne Ferretti. This 45-year-old woman had come to see Padre Pio in 1961, a few years before his death. Her case was different from the others. She wasn't seeking to receive a message from her deceased husband. She was seeking to make it stop. Her husband had died 3 years earlier. And since then, every night, she dreamed of him. But these dreams were not peaceful. Her husband appeared tortured, suffering, calling for help. Jessica couldn't take it anymore. She barely slept. The terror of these nocturnal visions was consuming her. Padre Pio listened attentively. Then he asked a surprising question. "Do you pray for him?" Jessica hesitated. She had prayed in the beginning, a lot. But faced with these terrifying dreams, she had stopped. She thought something bad was happening. She was afraid to continue. Padre Pio shook his head sadly. "You have abandoned a soul that was begging you," he said softly. "Your husband comes every night not to frighten you, but to ask you to resume your prayers. He suffers, and you are the only one who can help him." Jessica was devastated. How could she have not understood? Padre Pio explained that the souls in purgatory cannot ask directly. They cannot pronounce the words, "Pray for me," clearly. God does not allow them this explicit communication. They must show, suggest, leave clues. The suffering her husband showed in the dreams was not a reproach. It was a cry for help, a cry she had misinterpreted. Padre Pio gave her precise instructions. Resume the Rosary, let it play every night, and above all, offer each mystery specifically for her husband. Jessica followed these instructions for 3 months. The dreams changed gradually. First, the suffering diminished, and then her husband began to appear more serene. Finally, after exactly 90 days, he appeared one last time. He was smiling. He was luminous. And he said one word before disappearing forever. "Grazie." Thank you. Jessica never dreamed of him again after that night. She knew deep in her heart that he had finally found peace, that he had passed from purgatory to paradise. This story illustrates a crucial aspect of the nocturnal rosary method. It's not just a way to receive messages. It's also a powerful way to relieve souls. When the rosary resonates during our sleep, the graces that flow from it are multiplied. Why? Because our soul, freed from the distractions of the day, is entirely receptive to prayer. Padre Pio explained that during sleep, our soul does not cease to be spiritual. It continues to exist, to perceive, to pray in a certain way. When the rosary accompanies it, it unites with this prayer in a profound way. The souls in purgatory benefit directly from this union. They receive the merits of the prayer without the filters of our distracted consciousness. That's why this method is so effective for liberating souls. Padre Pio believed that a rosary listened to during sleep could have as much power as several rosaries recited during the day. Not because daytime prayer is less valuable, but because we are so distracted when we pray while awake. Our thoughts wander. Our worries overwhelm us. We recite the words without really living them. During sleep, these obstacles disappear. The soul receives the pure prayer without interference. But the nocturnal rosary method is not limited to communications with the deceased in our family. Padre Pio revealed something even more extraordinary. Some nights, souls we have never known may come to visit us. Forgotten souls, souls with no one to pray for them, souls abandoned in the depths of purgatory. These visits are a privilege and a responsibility. Padre Pio recounted that sometimes during his sleep, strangers would come to beg him, soldiers fallen in battle whom no one remembered, children who died without baptism, who wandered in the limbo of divine mercy, forgotten sinners whose families had long since ceased to pray. These souls desperately seek someone to help them, and when they find a sleeper enveloped by the Rosary, they approach with hope. If you practice this method, it is possible that you will receive such visits. Do not be frightened. These souls mean you no harm. They are simply seeking an intercessor. Padre Pio advised welcoming these visits with compassion. Upon waking, offer a prayer for this unknown soul. Even if you don't know its name, God does. Your prayer will reach its target. A priest from Boston, Father Michael O'Connell, had such an experience after he began practicing the nocturnal rosary on the advice of Padre Pio. One night, he dreamed of a soldier in an old uniform, probably from the 19th century. This soldier looked at him with eyes full of pain. He did not speak, but he pointed to his chest, where there was a bloody wound. Father Michael woke up troubled. He knew no one matching that description. He had no connection to military history, but he followed Padre Pio's advice. He celebrated a mass for the soul of this unknown soldier. The next night, the soldier returned in his dream, but this time the wound was healed. His face was serene, and before disappearing, he saluted Father Michael with a military gesture full of gratitude. Was this soldier real? Had he really existed? Father Michael never knew. But he was convinced that a soul had been helped that night. A soul that had perhaps waited for over a century for someone to pray for it. That is the power of the nocturnal rosary. It's not limited to our family circle. It connects us to the communion of saints in its broadest sense. We become instruments of mercy for souls we will never know on earth. Padre Pio lived this communion every night. His cell in San Giovanni Rotondo was like a station where souls from all over the world came seeking help. He never had enough time, never enough strength to respond to all these requests. That's why he taught this method to others. He wanted to multiply the intercessors. He wanted others to share this nocturnal ministry with suffering souls. Now you may understand why I said at the beginning that this method could change the way you sleep, because once you start, you can no longer ignore what is happening in the invisible world during your hours of rest. Sleep is no longer simply a time for physical recovery. It becomes a time for spiritual mission. Each night, you have the opportunity to help souls, to receive messages, to participate in the great mystery of communion between the living and the dead. But how exactly do you practice this method? What are the practical details Padre Pio taught? Here's what testimonies have passed down to us. First, the choice of the Rosary. Padre Pio recommended a rosary recited slowly, with devotion. Not a rosary rushed through at breakneck speed. The words must have time to resonate, to penetrate the spiritual atmosphere of the room. If you use a recording, choose a calm and prayerful voice. Avoid versions that are too musical or too fast. Ideally, it's a simple, meditative voice, one that allows the soul to follow each mystery. Second, the volume. The rosary should be audible but not intrusive. It should create a soothing background sound, not a noise that prevents sleep. Padre Pio compared it to the murmur of a stream. You can hear it, but you can sleep in its presence. Third, consistency. This method doesn't work if you practice it once by chance. The souls need to know they can count on this window of access. Padre Pio recommended practicing every night for at least 40 consecutive days before evaluating the results. 40 days. The same number that Jesus spent in the desert, the same number that Moses spent on Mount Sinai. This is no coincidence. 40 days is the time needed to establish a profound spiritual discipline. Fourth, intention. Before you fall asleep, clearly formulate your intention. For which soul are you praying specifically, or are you praying for all the souls in purgatory in general? This intention directs the prayer towards its target. Fifth, preparing the space. Padre Pio insisted on the purity of the room. No profane objects, no television, even if it's turned off, a visible crucifix, a picture of the Virgin Mary, holy water within reach. This preparation isn't superstitious. It creates an environment conducive to prayer and hostile to evil intrusions. The devil flees from consecrated spaces. The souls in purgatory are drawn to them. Sixth, the disposition of the heart. Before sleeping, make a brief examination of conscience. Ask for forgiveness for the sins of the day. This purification opens your soul to divine and angelic communication. Padre Pio was very strict on this point. A heart filled with resentment or unconfessed sin cannot properly receive spiritual messages. The door is blocked by the debris of our faults. If you practice this method and nothing seems to be happening, first, examine your spiritual state. Is there a confession you're putting off? A forgiveness you refuse to grant? A habit you know is bad, but you maintain? These obstacles can prevent nocturnal communication even if everything else is in place. Seventh, patience. Souls don't come on demand, they come when God allows it. Some people receive visits from the first nights. Others have to wait months. Don't be discouraged if dreams don't come immediately. The nightly rosary does its work even without visible manifestation. The souls are helped even if they don't visit you. Your prayer rises to heaven whether you perceive it or not. Eighth, discernment upon waking. When you wake up, remain still for a few moments. Try to remember your dreams. Write them down if possible, even the details that seem insignificant. Padre Pio kept a kind of journal of his nocturnal visions. He recommended the same practice to his spiritual directees. Over time, patterns emerge, recurring messages become clearer. Ninth, verification. If a dream gives you verifiable information, verify it, like Joseph with his mother's drawer, or Emily Carter with the warning about her son. This verification strengthens faith and sharpens discernment. 10th, spiritual support. If possible, talk about your experiences with a trusted priest or spiritual director. This external guidance is valuable to avoid getting lost and to confirm the authenticity of the messages received. These 10 points constitute the complete method as Padre Pio taught it. It's not complicated, but it requires consistency and faith. Now that you know this method, a question may arise in your mind. Why do souls need to contact us? Aren't they in God's hands? This question touches the very heart of the doctrine of purgatory, and what Padre Pio taught on this subject might surprise you. Purgatory isn't a prison where God locks up souls to punish them. It's a place, or rather a state, of loving purification. The souls there are saved. They will go to heaven, that's certain. But they aren't yet ready for the beatific vision. Earthly attachments still hold them back. Sins forgiven but not atoned for leave traces. Imperfect spiritual habits must be corrected. This purification process can be long. Some souls remain in purgatory for centuries of earthly time, not because God is cruel, but because divine perfection demands total purity before definitive union. And that's where we come in. Through our prayers, our sacrifices, our masses offered, we can accelerate this purification. We can, in a way, take upon ourselves part of the weight that weighs on these souls. It's an act of extraordinary love, an act that transcends the barriers of death. The souls in purgatory know this. They know that our help can shorten their suffering. That's why they seek so desperately to communicate with us, not out of selfishness, but because this communication is part of God's plan. Padre Pio saw this interaction as a divine collaboration. God wanted the living to be able to help the dead, and the dead, once in heaven, to be able to intercede for the living. It's a cycle of charity that crosses the borders of time and space. The nightly rosary fits perfectly into this cycle. While we sleep, we offer our rest to God. We allow prayer to work in us and through us, and the souls benefit. But there's even more. Padre Pio revealed to some of his spiritual children that the souls who have been helped by someone become, once in heaven, special protectors of that person. Think about it for a moment. Every soul you help through the nightly rosary potentially becomes your extra guardian angel once it reaches eternal glory. These souls don't forget. Their gratitude turns into powerful intercession. Joseph, the doctor I mentioned, experienced this reality in a striking way. After his mother passed into heaven, he continued the practice of the nocturnal rosary, and strange things began to happen in his professional life. Repeatedly, he had unexplainable diagnostic intuitions, difficult cases where all the tests came back negative, but something told him to look further, and each time he found the hidden illness in time to treat it. One day, a colleague asked him how he did it. Michael didn't know what to answer. He couldn't rationally explain where these intuitions came from. When he spoke to Padre Pio about it, the saint smiled. "Your mother is working with you now," he said. "From heaven she sees what you don't see. She guides you." This protection isn't magic, it isn't superstition. It's simply the communion of saints in action. Those we have loved and helped do not abandon us. They continue their relationship with us in a new and more powerful form. You might be starting to understand why this method of the nocturnal rosary is so precious. It isn't just a means of one-time communication. It's the foundation of a lasting relationship with the invisible world. A relationship that enriches your earthly life and prepares your own passage into eternity. Because one day, you too will be on the other side. One day, your soul may need the help of the living, and if you've established this connection during your life, if you've learned to speak with souls and help them, someone will do the same for you. It's a chain of charity that spans generations. Your great-grandparents may have prayed for souls. Those souls in heaven may have prayed for your grandparents, and so on, down to you. And you, through the nocturnal rosary, continue this chain. You become a link in this immense communion that unites all believers of all time. Padre Pio lived with this constant awareness of the presence of souls. He sometimes said that his cell was more crowded than St. Peter's Square. Thousands of souls, visible only to him, surrounded him day and night. This vision may seem frightening at first, but Padre Pio described it with serenity. These souls were his friends, his companions on the road to heaven, and he served them as a friend serves his friends. You probably won't have Padre Pio's vision. Few people have that gift, but you can have the same awareness. You can know, through faith, that the souls are there, that they surround you, that they speak to you in the silence of the night. And that knowledge changes everything. It changes how you see death, no longer as an end, but as a passage, no longer as a definitive separation, but as a transformation of the relationship. It changes how you experience grief, no longer as a hopeless despair, but as an active anticipation, a continued collaboration with the one who has departed. It changes how you pray, no longer as a monologue to a distant God, but as a dialogue within an immense spiritual family composed of the living, the deceased, and the saints. That's what Padre Pio wanted to convey when he taught the method of the nocturnal rosary. It wasn't just one spiritual technique among others. It was a door to a new way of living the Catholic faith. A faith that doesn't stop at the grave. A faith that crosses the boundaries of death. A faith that unites heaven and earth in a continuous prayer. This faith is your inheritance. This inheritance that Padre Pio wanted to pass on to you. But there's one last revelation that I must share with you. A revelation that Padre Pio made in the last years of his life concerning our time. You see, Padre Pio didn't speak only of the past or the present. He saw the future too. And what he saw for our time worried him deeply. He said repeatedly that the souls in purgatory would need more and more help in the times to come. Why? Because fewer and fewer people would pray for them. This prophecy is being fulfilled before our very eyes. How many families today still have masses said for their deceased? How many visit cemeteries regularly? How many pray the rosary for the souls in purgatory? Secularization has destroyed these traditions. In many families, the dead are buried and forgotten. Their souls remain helpless. Padre Pio wept when speaking about this. These abandoned souls suffer longer than necessary, and when they finally reach heaven, they find that their descendants have forgotten them. Your practice of the nocturnal rosary is therefore doubly precious in our time. Not only do you help your own deceased, but you contribute to filling the deficit of prayers that our materialistic society has created. Each night, when you let the rosary play, you perform an act of mercy for dozens, perhaps hundreds of souls. You're like those monks who, in monasteries, pray all night for the sleeping world. This responsibility may seem heavy, but it's also an immense grace. You have the opportunity to do something that really matters, something eternal. Because one day, at the time of your particular judgment, God will show you all the souls you have helped. You will see their faces, you will hear their thanks, and you will understand that those nights spent with the rosary were among the most important moments of your life. If you've watched this far, it's because something in you has been touched. Perhaps the memory of a deceased loved one, perhaps a spiritual curiosity, perhaps simply the voice of your soul, seeking something deeper than what the world offers. What I'm sharing here isn't easy to find elsewhere. These teachings of Padre Pio on the nocturnal rosary aren't in popular books. The Vatican has preferred discretion. The religious media aren't interested. That's why this type of video takes courage to create. Revealing what the Church keeps in its archives isn't always well received. Some will say that I'm exaggerating, others that I'm making it up. But the testimonies are there, documented, verifiable, this for anyone who wants to look. If these revelations about nocturnal prayer and communication with souls have brought you something, if you feel that your faith has been enriched, the super thanks button below this video is a way to show it. It isn't an obligation. It's a recognition. Every super thanks becomes a flame of support to continue revealing what Padre Pio wanted all Catholics to know. You're not just supporting a content creator, you're participating in the mission to spread awareness of the Rosary's power and the reality of souls in purgatory. Together, we can be what Padre Pio hoped for: watchmen in the night, prayer warriors for forgotten souls, witnesses to the communion of saints. Now, let me give you one final practical tip before we conclude. Tonight, before you sleep, prepare your room as I described earlier. Find a recording of the Rosary. Set your intention for a specific soul, or for all the souls in purgatory, and let the prayer accompany you into sleep. Upon waking, don't rush out of bed. Remain still for a few moments, your eyes closed. Try to recall what you saw, heard, felt during the night. Maybe nothing noteworthy will come the first few times. That's normal. The spiritual channels need to open gradually, but maybe, just maybe, a surprise awaits you. A familiar face, a voice you haven't heard in a long time, a message you've been waiting for, without even knowing it. Souls are patient. They have eternity before them. But you have limited time here on earth, so don't delay. Start tonight. Padre Pio often said that the greatest sadness in heaven is seeing how many graces remain unused on earth, because no one asks for them. These graces of communication with souls are available. God offers them generously, but so few seize them. Don't be among those who miss out on these spiritual treasures. Seize this opportunity. Open this door that the nocturnal rosary can unlock. Your departed loved one may be waiting on the other side, ready to speak to you, ready to guide you, ready to show you what you need to know. And if no one is waiting for you personally, thousands of unknown souls are there, hoping that someone like you will extend a hand in their suffering. What more beautiful way to live your faith than to be that outstretched hand? What more beautiful way to sleep than to transform each night into a mission of love? This is the gift that Padre Pio left us, a gift that continues to give night after night, soul after soul, until purgatory is empty, and we are all reunited in eternal light. May the Virgin Mary, Queen of the Rosary, accompany you in this practice. May she open your heart to the visits of souls. May she protect you from any evil intrusion, and may she lead you, with all those you love, toward the joy of paradise. Before we finish, I'd like to know something. Have you ever had a nocturnal experience where you felt the presence of a departed loved one, a particularly vivid dream, an unexplainable sensation upon waking? Tell me in the comments. Share your testimony. You could help someone else who is experiencing the same thing without daring to talk about it. And especially, tell me if you're going to try the nocturnal rosary method tonight. Simply write the word rosary in the comments if you commit to starting this practice. We're forming a community of prayer warriors for souls. Every comment, every share, every commitment strengthens this community. Together, we can make a difference for thousands of suffering souls. May Padre Pio intercede for you. May his scent of roses visit you tonight, and may the souls in purgatory find in you a faithful friend and a generous intercessor. See you soon in a future revelation, and may every night from now on be for you a night of prayer and encounter with the invisible world.